Okay, boys and girls, we're gonna make some pasta fagioli now. Classic pasta fagioli, made all over Italy, but especially up in the north of Italy. It's, considered a more of an indigenous dish up there. In the Verona area, the Veneto area especially, pasta fagioli reigns supreme. Okay, so we start out by very small dicing some fresh, regular Spanish yellow onions. Bam, boom. So, this onion's a little bit damaged here. Let's take a look how bad it is. You see it's got a nice little black thing on the outside. But I'm sure there's still some quality onions in there somewhere. Peel off this. Bam, boom, we peel it just like that. Take that first skin off. There we go, nice perfect onion. I'm gonna save all this for brodo. This one's gonna have some damage to it. Let's see how much damage there is. Not that much, you can see. Sometimes an onion, this is normal for an onion. You just peel it away. Underneath, everything's fine, you see? Perfect. Okay, I'm gonna cut another one. Same story. Clean them up. Take the ends off. And boom, zing. Perfect. Beautiful little onions. Like I said, we're gonna do a nice small dice, right? So we're gonna go on the knife. We don't want giant pieces of onion in here. Bam, boom, zing. Here we go, we're lining them up. This one first. That's what we're looking for, you see? The beautiful, beautiful onions. Boom, there are onions. Gorgeous. And our beans that have been soaking. Pinto beans. You see? Cranberry beans. Pasta fagioli for YouTube. We start off with the onions. We sweat the onions. We get them translucent. We throw the beans in. Okay? We infuse the beans into the oil, into the onions. We meld, basically. Then water. Okay? Enough to cover. And nice slow, up to a boil, and then a nice slow simmer, maintaining the level of the water throughout, because we need plenty of water in order to be able to cook the pasta right inside the same sauce. And that's the goal here, is to create a bean puree / chunks of beans. I'm going to show you what we're going to do. Some are going to go in the blender, some are not, because we want texture, as always. Okay, and we're going to cook the pasta right in the same liquid. So we need it to be nice and loose at the perfect consistency when we add the pasta in, because the pasta is also going to suck up some of that liquid. It's going to displace some of that liquid. So it's a little tricky, but I'll show you. So we're going to start with the olive oil. Plenty. Okay, we have a lot of stuff to infuse into the oil. The oil's the vehicle. So boom, we start with the olive oil. That's going to be enough. Yeah, why not a little more onions? Okay, so we start by sweating. We're going to use a cover, as always. Boom. Okay, we sweat covered. See? Trapping it all in. Shake it a little bit to smooth them out. Make sure they're all in the oil. Like that. And we let it go until it's nice and translucent, and then we pop in our beans. Onions translucent, no color. Sweat covered. Okay, beans go in. We saute the beans with the onions, flavor the oil with the flavor of the beans, even while they're raw. Okay, so we're going to kind of sweat all together and infuse it into the oil, and then we add in enough liquid to cover up to a boil, down to a simmer, and we keep cooking them until they're nice and tender, adding more liquid as needed to keep it nice and moist. Okay, and then we're going to puree some. We're going to puree about half and leave about half of them whole and perfectly cooked. So when they're perfectly cooked, we're going to puree them and then freeze it right there. Okay, and then allow for the time also that the pasta needs to cook so the beans won't be overcooked. So we're going to undercook them just a little bit so they only have another 10 minutes really to be cooked with the pasta. So there's really a cadence here. You have to get the cadence right. No color, see? Lower the heat a little bit. Nice sweat. So I'm going to strain out the beans. There, let's go. Beans are going in. One-handed as usual. Here we go, melding the beans with the onions and the olive oil. Meld, meld, meld. And again, we cover. Say, well, what about pancetta? Aren't you supposed to put pancetta in a pasta fagioli? I don't. I keep it, almost vegan. I like the beans. I want the bean flavor. I want the onion flavor. I'm going to do my whole charred garlic later, some rosemary. It really doesn't need any pig fat. Okay, it really doesn't. It's a classic dish with the pig fat, and if you're going to do the pancetta, you do it with the onions. Okay, and then you add the beans in and saute it all together. So if you want to do it, you can do it. Okay, I don't. I like to keep it pure, all about the beans, the Parmigiano cheese, the white pepper I'm going to crack in there. It doesn't need anything else. It doesn't need pig fat. I got extra virgin olive oil going on in here, okay? We're going to also get, the roasted garlic oil in there, the charred garlic that I'm going to make. That oil is going to be there also. There's plenty of fat going on here. There's plenty of flavor going on. I don't need pancetta. Water. Don't get too crazy. You want to just keep the water levels always reasonable. Okay. We're going to get a pretty good amount of evaporation before these beans cook. And we're going to need some extra liquid to cook the pasta in also. So keep it loose, but don't overdo the water. You can always add more. You can't take it away. Part of the trick of a great pasta fagioli is to manage the consistency perfectly. To have, when you puree the beans, it's going to be almost like heavy cream. You're going to take some beans out, and like I said, the pasta, you have to account for the time for the pasta to cook with the beans. You have to account for that, okay? And you have to account also for how much liquid the pasta is going to displace. Okay, what I usually do is I don't even throw, after the beans are cooked perfectly, okay, the way I make it easier is I pull the whole beans out and leave them on the side, and I just cook the pot, so they're perfectly cooked and they're frozen right there, and they're on the side ready to be thrown in at the end. So it's easier to just, to bring the beans up to the perfect al dente, okay, pull half of them out, puree them with the liquid, okay, reserve the whole beans on the side, and then cook the pasta right inside the puree beans until the pasta is perfectly cooked. And then at the end, throw the whole beans in for texture and finish all the seasoning. We're going to do it all together right now. So now we got a lot of time. I go up to a boil on high heat. As soon as it comes up to a boil, down to the lowest possible simmer. We're not looking for evaporation here, so we want the lowest possible simmer. We're looking, to evaporate our liquid here, okay? We just want to cook the beans, basically, and have the liquid flavored with the beans. And we want to avoid diluting that at all costs because we want the bean flavor, okay? So the less liquid we have to put in, the better, all right? So you want to go on the lowest possible flame so that we can literally just have enough simmer inside the water to cook the beans. That's it. So you want to diffuse the heat if possible. Put it on a flat top, off to the corner if you have a flat top, or if you have a griddle. You know, you can put the whole pot on top of a griddle because you want it to go as slow as possible, or you can put it askew on the burner, off to the side of the burner, which is probably what I'm gonna do today. Boom, there we go. That's all we need, a little bit of action. I'm gonna move it to my slower burner in the back here to make it simmer even slower, like we said. In the beginning, I'm not gonna diffuse it. I'm gonna let it go like this for a little bit. I'm gonna diffuse it as soon as I get it going. I only have this little bit of beans left. I was gonna leave it at that, but why not? I'll make some extra. So I'm gonna add a little more liquid to this and cook a little more beans. Why not? Now, pasta fagioli is a peasant dish, okay? Peasant dish. Technically, the pasta we use for it is called maltagliati, okay? Now, maltagliati can be when, let's say, you make fresh pasta, all your ends and scraps, when you make ravioli, when, you can save all those little pieces of scrap pasta in like a bag in the freezer, and then you can cook that directly right inside the soup itself. Or, okay, and this is what I usually do, is I prefer to use a dry pasta for this anyway because I can get a true al dente with dry pasta. So what I do is I save half-used boxes of dry pasta, okay, and then I throw them into a Ziploc bag, and I crack them up with a meat hammer. Okay, so the idea is utilization here. You want to utilize maltagliati, stuff that is all different shapes and all different sizes of pasta. Okay, because once again, like I said, peasant dish. Utilization. Pasta fagioli, when you accumulate a lot of scrap pasta, that's when you should make it, when you're trying to get rid of all that. So this is what I have open right now. I got some panettone, some elbows, some lasagna noodles, you see? Look, boom, boom, boom. And I'm just gonna put them in the bag, okay? I'm gonna bring it over here, and I'm gonna beat them up, just like that. You see, put everything inside, closed up the bag. And there you go, maltagliati. Now I can keep this whole bag whenever I want to make pasta fagioli. I'm ready to go. I have maltagliati. And you can just keep a bag always with all your scraps, and it's ready to go whenever you want to make this soup. One of the important things about what I'm doing here on YouTube and on Instagram is getting you guys not to throw anything away, to operate waste-free kitchens. When I think of the amount of waste that home cooks throw away just because they don't have good systems set in place, okay, you think about all that food that could be saved. It's an enormous amount of food. And I'm teaching you guys all kinds of methods that will clean out your vegetables, clean out your fruits, clean out everything. It's all inclusive in what I'm doing here. And if you ever have any questions about stuff like that, feel free to ask me right away. When it comes to not wasting food, that's always a priority on DM for me. Now I'm gonna peel some garlic for the charred garlic for the pasta fagioli. Okay, so we need whole cloves of garlic. So bam, boom. We have it. I like to trim off these little ends here. Okay, which makes it a lot easier to peel the garlic. A little tiny bit off of each side, like that. Makes the skin come off that much easier. So that's the first thing I do. Trim off these ends, like that. Now I give them a little tap, a little love tap, like that. easily come out. See? This one's got a little, this one's kind of screwy. I'm not going to bother using that one. These are good. These are perfect. See how easily they come out when you cut both ends? You see? This one I didn't cut. Bounce. Boom, boom. See? Easily they peel. Come right off. It's also a perfect place to put your Parmigiano rinds. Okay, right inside the beans, onions, and liquid cooking. Consider it like putting in bones, and here they are, Parmigiano rinds, look. You can put them in right from the beginning. I put them in a little late. The longer they're in here, the better. They're gonna melt in and they're gonna flavor this and give it a nice background Parmigiano flavor. Let's check the beans. Let's see how much they're cooked. See by pushing it also, it's still a little raw. They're getting close though, very close. You want them to have texture, you want them to be al dente but not crunchy. So when they start to get just a little bit pasty, well, like you bite into them, okay, and there's no dry bean in your mouth. It like, you bite into it, it's tender, soft, but not like cracking and crumbly. It should be more puree, pasty. That's when you know the beans are ready. You can feel the beans against the spoon, really. I mean, just like when you're cooking pasta, you can feel how tender the pasta is just by how it feels against the spoon. If it feels like little pebbles up against the spoon, then they're obviously hard. When they start to feel a little softer, even when you're stirring them, even without tasting them, you can almost tell. But of course, you always want to try one to be sure. Let's talk about the charred garlic, okay? We get a pot, smoking hot, hotter than you think it should be, honestly, okay? The olive oil goes in, should smoke immediately on contact. You throw the garlic cloves in, they should immediately start frying and turning brown within like 30 to 60 seconds. Okay, that's how hot the pan needs to be. It's gonna take some getting used to, like knowing how hot the pan should be, okay? If it's not hot enough, crank it up. If you see that they're not turning color, the garlic cloves are not turning color very quickly, crank the heat all the way up until they start turning color very, very quickly, and you'll know for next time that it has to be hotter. Okay, so it's a learning process figuring out how hot the pot needs to be for this, okay? But just remember, it's almost impossible for it to be too hot because you're throwing quite a bit of oil in there and the garlic, which is going to absorb a lot of that heat. I mean, it is possible if you have a really, hot gas stove, to make the pot too hot. And in that case, you would just cover it. If, for instance, the oil should ignite, you just cover it and pull it off the stove and it will go out because you will get rid of, there will be no more air inside, which will smother the fire no matter what. So we're gonna do that right at the end here, okay? And then we're gonna pour that oil into this container where I have rosemary. So we're gonna use the heat from the charred garlic oil to infuse the rosemary into the same oil. And then we're gonna pour that oil and the garlic right into the pasta fagioli at the end before we serve. You see the pot, we're already getting it hot. Here I have the rosemary in this container. I'm gonna pour the oil in here, and here's the garlic ready to go in. I have water here in case I need to adjust here. Okay, right now I have a perfect amount of water in here, doesn't need any adjustment. And we continue to keep cooking until the beans are nice and perfectly cooked. There we go. And you say, well, what beans should I be using for pasta fagioli? technically borlotti beans, pinto beans, otherwise known as cranberry beans here in the States. Pinto is Spanish, cranberry is English, and borlotti is Italian. Okay, borlotti are the best beans because the reddish color on the bean is what gives the pasta fagioli that amazing pale red pink color. Okay, there is no tomato in pasta fagioli. That is a misconception. Okay, some people make it with white beans and then throw tomato in to get the color, but that's not proper. There's not supposed to be any tomato in a pasta fagioli. Okay, it's the beans themselves, cranberry beans, pinto beans, borlotti beans, but you could use any bean for this, obviously. Okay, it's just not classical that way, but you can make a pasta fagioli with any bean, all right? Obviously, the color and flavor might be a little bit different, but the reality is that you can use whatever beans you have in the house, okay? You can see it. You have to be careful not to let the Parmigiano rind stick to the bottom. Okay, because that is, they're getting ooey and gooey. You can see it. You see? Ooey and gooey. It's soft. You see that? So you got to be careful. Don't let them stick. So we keep stirring, but we're getting there very slowly, almost there. I can feel them getting softer even on the spoon as I stir it. Very, very, very close to starting the puree process. We have our blender ready to go. We have our maltagliati ready. I have some fennel seeds and some rosemary here ready. As soon as I make my charred garlic, the charred garlic you can see is on the burner, just hanging out, staying nice and hot. So it's ready as soon as I'm ready. Which we're gonna do it right at the end. We're gonna have another maybe 15 minutes here tops. So this is one of the signs that we're getting there. You see how the skin is coming off? You see on that one there? That one's perfectly cooked. Some of the other ones are still a little too hard. So I'm just gonna go a little bit longer, but that's what you're looking for. As soon as you see that, you know you're getting close. See, as soon as they start to rupture, there's only really one of them ruptured there though. You see? They just need to go a little bit longer, like another 15 minutes. But you can see the skin's starting to come off too. Just wanna lose that crunch, that when the bean is, it's just not soft. It's hard to put into words exactly what I'm talking about, but it gets like kind of a, it loses the crunch. That's what it is. It loses the crunch, but it still has the texture of each particular bean. So when, you bite down on it, the skin bursts open in your mouth and the inside of the bean is tender, yet still bites you back a touch, but no crunching, right? That's the best way to describe it, is like when they're not ready, they have this little crunch to them. You don't want the crunch. You just want the resistance to the teeth. So when you bite them, they're soft inside, but they stay inside the skin of the bean. So you don't want them all breaking open. We want them to stay whole, but be soft inside. So we're basically there. So I'm gonna pull the Parmigiano rinds out because we can't puree those in the blender. So I'm gonna pull those out, and I'm gonna remove, like I said, about half the beans to throw back in whole, and the rest of the beans and the liquid that's in the pot, I'm gonna puree, and we're gonna cook the pasta right in that and then add the beans in later. So let's do it. So first thing, let's get these Parmigiano rinds. We don't wanna be putting those into the blender, that's for sure. There's quite a few of them in here. Had a lot of them in the freezer. And there we go. Perfect. Now we're gonna use this strainer here, okay, to remove these beans. And we don't want any liquid, we just want the beans. So we'll strain them out. And that's about half of them. And a little more. And now we're gonna puree all of this right inside the blender. Let's do it. Here we go. We gotta make sure we have enough liquid to puree it. So we might have to add some liquid to this. Might have to add a little bit of water to this. It's not a problem because we're gonna be reducing it quite a bit. And like we said, the pasta is gonna displace it as well. So let's get going here. Let's put the top on. I'm gonna hold it tight. like that. I'm gonna start out a little slow, variable. See, let's take a peek over here. Doing this all one-handed, guys. Well, you can see it. You see? Boom, bang, boom, zing. Gonna put that back in there like that. Okay, I'm gonna have to add a little more liquid to this. I can see it already. Have some liquid ready. Just like that. Boom. I'm gonna do all of this now. Got enough liquid now. We need a little more liquid in here and we're good. Now I'm gonna use this to help me to get just the beans. Oh, there's another piece of Parmigiano rind there. We don't want that. Put that over here. Boom. Here we go. Beans, beans, beans. Want to make sure we get all the beans. Boom. Just like that. We can leave we can leave some in there. It's a rustic soup. It's not a problem. One-handed over here, making a big mess. But you can see the liquid. Boom, boom, boom. Bam, boom, zing. Variable. Again, needs more liquid. Now we got to adjust the consistency with more liquid. Here we go. It's too thick. Much too thick. Got to be able to cook the pasta in here too. Right? Need it to be like, basically like the consistency of heavy cream. And we're close. I think that's probably perfect right there. Doing this all one-handed, it's a little messy, but you get the idea. I want you guys to be up close and personal with this. But that's what we're looking for. And you can see we still have some, a little bit of inconsistency here in the texture, which is fine. We want that. We want to have some broken beans, some whole beans, and some puree beans. Now I'm going to change the pot because I can feel that some of the cheese is on the bottom of this pot. I can feel that it's a little bit stuck, so I'm going to switch it to another pot just to be sure that it doesn't start to scorch. I used a lot of Parmigiano rinds in here, okay? So it created some residue of Parmigiano, which is going to stick to the bottom. So that's why I'm going to switch the pot. I'm going to change the pot over to a fresh pot and now cook the pasta right in this bean puree. And then we're going to finish with the whole beans and we're going to finish with the charred garlic. You see what I'm talking here, you see? See along the sides here? You see how it's already kind of stuck on the sides here? Right here? That's gonna scorch, okay? We don't want that, and that's the Parmigiano, is what that is. So we're gonna start with a fresh pot. This is not gonna happen to you. I used a lot of Parmigiano rinds. Look at all those Parmigiano rinds, which added a lot of flavor, but it also created that issue, okay? So we're gonna go back up on the fire here, okay? Bring it up to a simmer. And then we're throwing in all the pasta. I'm gonna cook the pasta right inside this. And we're gonna keep adjusting as we need to with water if necessary. Also, very important, flat bottom wooden spoon. Why? So you can easily scrape the bottom as it's cooking. A bean puree like this will stick so quickly you won't even believe it. You gotta be staying here literally scraping it the whole time you're cooking the pasta in it, okay? Anytime you want to cook the pasta in this, you got to be careful. It will scorch and then it will burn and it will taste like crap. So the pasta is going to take anywhere from, once again, they're all different cuts of pasta. We're going to get all different textures out of it because there's different thickness. The lasagna is one thickness, and that's one of the great things about maltagliati is that you are going to get multiple textures. You're going to get like a very al dente piece of pasta and then maybe a little bit of a softer piece of pasta. And that's the whole peasant concept of this, is that we want texture, we want to utilize, don't worry about it. So now I'm going to get the pasta in here. As soon as I get this back up to a simmer, I'm going to throw the pasta right into this bean puree. I want you to see the consistency on this. You see, it's just like heavy cream. It nappies the back of a ladle. You see? See it flowing like that? That's what you're looking for. No thicker than that, because we have to cook the pasta in here. We're bringing it up to a simmer. We're scraping it as it goes. Remember, where the fire is in the middle is where it will stick first. So make sure you're scraping that first and then going all the way around and making sure it's not sticking. Now you're saying, what about the seasoning? Okay, salt is, you don't really need to put salt until the end. Okay, the salt dissolves in and you immediately taste the salt. Okay, you want to make sure that you know what volume you have before you're adding salt. You want to add salt in the beginning because you don't know what you're going to end up with, and you're reducing and concentrating that salt. Okay, so the pepper, the salt is all going to go at the end. Okay, I also have bay leaves here. Fresh bay leaves, very important. So it's going to take, like I said, about 10 minutes to cook the pasta. So when the pasta's in there for like maybe 3 or 4 minutes, I'm going to add the bay leaves because they extract in about 5 to 10 minutes usually. Okay, and then I'm going to do the charred garlic. Pour the charred garlic on top of the fennel seed and the rosemary in this oven-proof dish, and then pour that right inside, right at the end before we serve it. I just cranked the heat up for 1 minute just to get it up to a boil so I can get the pasta in there. But I'm watching it very carefully, making sure it's not sticking. Now it has, like I said, no salt whatsoever. So I just want to get a little bit of smoked salt in here. Just a touch. I know that's not going to be enough salt. Boom. So I want to get just a little bit in here so I can start tasting it. So I'm just going to get, like I said, a little salt in here. Just because I want to see how the smoked salt's going to react in here. But I'm going to finish it with more salt towards the end. It's coming, you see? Here it comes. And now's when it's really going to start sticking. You got to be really careful. We're basically ready for the pasta now. That should be plenty. Let's see, it's up to a boil. Pasta's going to grow quite a bit and displace quite a bit. Get some more of these bigger pieces in here. These big lasagna pieces are nice. And that's it. Now we lower it. The lowest, you just need a little bit of action inside the liquid because we don't want it to stick. So I'm putting on the lowest flame. And now that the pasta's in here, I can fire the garlic. Okay, so here we go. I turn that way up now, all the way up. And char up this garlic. Boom. See, the pan was not hot enough, like I said. This is good, I want to show you this. So I had it on the lowest heat, so now I know leaving it on the lowest heat is not hot enough to start the charred garlic. But it's okay, I turned it up and it's going to catch up now. I want you guys to see that mistake, okay? So now, you turn it up and you can catch it up, but it's better if you throw the oil in and the garlic immediately starts turning brown. That's what you're really looking for. But I can speed it up now and you'll see I can catch it up. But this is not the ideal way to do it. You'll get used to it. You'll start to learn what temperature to put your burner on and what pan to use and how long to leave it there before it is at the perfect temperature. See, I caught it up already fast. I'm getting good color on it, you see? It's coming fast. It's getting nice and brown. That's what you're looking for, okay? And over here, we still keep stirring. The pasta's in here. We're stirring, we're stirring, we're stirring. Pasta fagioli. I can get even a little more pasta in here. See that? Now I'm going to get a towel. Where are my towels? There it is. See? See what we're doing here? Okay. Now I don't need the heat anymore. It's good. Turn the heat off. Tip it like this so it stays, so it's in. Go out like that. Boom. The smell is amazing, amazing aromas on that garlic. Now I'm gonna pour it right over the rosemary. Oh. I'm gonna add in these bay leaves now. Like I said, bay leaves need about 5 to 10 minutes to extract. And we're gonna just cool this down just 1 second and then pour all that fat in here. We need all that fat. There's no fat in here, there's very little fat. You need fat in these sauces, in these beautiful pasta fagiolis. Beans need fat. So here we go. Inside. Beautiful. There's all these fennel seeds I gotta get out of here. I'm gonna use a rubber spatula to get them. Here we go, you see? There's a lot of flavor in that. The roasted garlic, the fennel seeds, the rosemary, all infused into the oil. Let's take a look at how much pasta we got going on here. Plenty of pasta, you see it? It's all growing. It's gonna take some time, but it's gonna displace this and it's gonna swell. Wow, the aromas are insane. You know, you say, well, when is it time to throw the beans back in? At the end, the beans are already cooked. We just need to reheat them. We don't want the beans to break up. We want that texture. We want those whole beans involved in this. Whole beans, pieces of al dente pasta, these roasted garlic cloves. These are all delicious parts of this. Okay, that charred garlic oil. There's so much sweetness in beans. The charred garlic oil gives a nice bitter background to that. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love using it. Also have some beautiful Parmigiano Reggiano grated like dust to finish with. Okay, we're gonna wait until the end and off the fire. Always mantecato off the fire. The Parmigiano goes in last. Wow, smells incredible, guys. Incredible. The bay leaves, the garlic, the rosemary. I'm gonna try a piece of pasta here and see where it's at. The pasta itself, cooking the pasta itself right in the bean soup also adds an enormous amount of flavor to the soup. Pasta water, tastes like pasta. This is the pasta water now. So the beans get fortified also by the flavor of the pasta itself as it cooks inside the soup. You cannot leave the stove. Once the pasta goes in, you're stuck here until it's done. Just keep stirring, keep watching it. You can decide, you want to make it more about the pasta or more about the beans. Okay, I like to make it mostly about the beans and have pasta in it. Okay, if you want to go with more pasta and less beans, you could add more liquid to it, okay? Depends on how you like it. And obviously you can use any pasta you want. We say maltagliati because it's a utilization dish, but if you wanted to use elbows or anything in particular, remember, it's rustic, it's peasant, it's up to you. One of the classic ways to make it is, with ditalini. You see it all the time, with ditalini, which is basically like little tiny mezzi maniches. In other words, like little short sleeves. It's just a hair too thick. I'm gonna add a little bit of liquid to it. Thin it out just a little bit. Because it's gonna keep thickening as it sits. I love using like an applewood smoked salt in this, applewood smoked sea salt in this. Because why? Because pork does work so well in this. Why does the pork work? Because it's, sometimes you can use a smoked pork product in this as well. If you use like a smoky, it's nice to have that smokiness is what I'm trying to say. And you don't need to use a smoked pork product, to get it. I mean, some people would put like smoked ham hocks in something like this, okay? So that's why I choose a smoked salt. And I choose not to use the pig fat because I can replicate those types of flavors, okay, easily without having to use cured meats. And I'm trying to keep my family away from nitrates and away from cured meats, okay, and to keep also my clients away from cured meats in places that I don't think it's necessary. If I can come up with the flavors without the cured pork, why use it? So I'm gonna try a piece here. Put it over here. Let it cool off a little bit. And you can see. I can feel with my finger that the pasta is still too al dente, but I want to try it. So boom, it's gonna go in my mouth. Here we go. It's hot. Oof. It's basically there. I'm gonna hit it with just a little more liquid because I know how much it's gonna thicken up as it's sitting. Okay, which is gonna dilute it a little bit. I'm gonna add a little more salt. Okay, and I'm gonna add the beans in now. So now's when I'm gonna start looking to finish up the salt flavor. Okay, I'm gonna get some more of this black salt, black sea, right in there. I'm gonna add the beans back in, just like that. Warm them up. Now I know I have perfectly cooked beans with this. So basically just up to a boil, and this is ready. And that's perfect. That's about the level of liquid, the level of beans, and the level of pasta you want in this. Okay? And you can pull out, the bay leaves if you want. I like to leave them in. I know not to eat them. I like to leave the rosemary in too because it just keeps breaking off and you're gonna get little pieces of rosemary as well as you're eating. But just up to a boil now with these beans in here and it's ready. And then we're gonna manticato or parmigiano. So here comes the boil. Once again, we're making sure it's not sticking. Remember, I threw all those beans in here and that slowed it down. That cooled it off. It's gotta come back up. I want it nice and scorching hot. And I added even a little more liquid to it. You can see the consistency. So now I'm gonna add this Parmigiano last. As soon as it comes up to a boil in the middle, and we're there. Boom, fire off. Manticato al Parmigiano on top. Mix that in. It's off the fire now. You can get a lot of Parmigiano in here, as much as you want. It's what makes it great. Melt in a lot of Parmigiano into this, and Parmigiano on top, and extra virgin olive oil on top, and we're in good shape. Now I'm gonna check the salt again. Salt is perfect, and it's nice and smoky. Let's serve it. And here we go. Look how fluid it is. You see the fluidity of it? You see? And remember, as this sits, it keeps getting thicker. You're gonna have to add a little bit of liquid. We're hungry. We're gonna go a nice bowl for each of us. Making sure I get lots of pasta in there. Now we finish. Extra virgin olive oil. This is from Tuscany, from my friend from Luca Aurelio. Anoint. Spoons. And then Parmigiano on top as well. Parmigiano. And more Parmigiano and more oil as you eat. Look at the consistency, you see? Flowing. Puree, okay, plus beans. Plus the pasta. You see how it's flowing soft? So it's creamy. The texture is very, very creamy and then also a little bit pasty because the actual beans themselves. But look how it flows. Very important for pasta fagioli to have that puree, that perfect puree flowing. And don't forget, you got those garlic cloves in here too, which are gonna surprise you from time to time. All of a sudden, you're gonna be like, whoa, there's There's a piece of charred garlic. Super sweet, super aromatic. You can see all the pasta's al dente. Perfectly cooked. Wow, amazing. More anointment, absolutely. And more Parmigiano on top, absolutely. As we eat, keep adding more, why not?